Alright, moving ahead to chapter 9, lesson 4. Still the same type of idea, but in the last video I told you what we're going to lead to is by taking the input and the output, and we're going to start graphing. And that's what we're going to do. Now on this one, we're going to start seeing that I'm not necessarily going to be multiplying like we had done on many of the other problems. I also realized that as I was getting ready to record this one and I was going back and saving my last program, that I had a wrong answer on one of my questions, and you may catch it while you were doing it. It was not one that we had to solve, but it was the t-shirts, and if they spent $375, could I use the same formula? And I put that it was 15 times 15. It was 25 times 15, which would make a lot more sense. Anyway, as we're going through this, so last week, one of the things I want to talk about in this video was complaining about I just don't want to spend the time watching this video. You don't have any idea, and you don't need to really worry about it, but how much time it takes me to make these videos, because making the slideshow is the hard part. It takes me a couple hours to make a slideshow. It may only take me 20 to 30 minutes to record it, unless I have to do it 5 times like the last week or two. But here's the thing, when I record how long it takes me to teach a lesson, which I often do, my shortest math lesson, and I told you this last week, at the beginning of the year was 47 minutes. Because I was constantly having to get you guys to refocus, get you to stop interrupting me when I was teaching, and it took so long, where it should only take 20 to 30 minutes to teach a math lesson. I do recap a lot of information on my videos, so some videos get close to 40 minutes, but it's because I've added extra information into it. So please understand, you think all these videos are so long, especially the ones that are 30, 35 minutes long. It was taking us almost, well, anywhere from 47 to over an hour to get a math lesson in at the beginning of the year because we couldn't stay focused and stop interrupting. So you have a lot more time to get your work done. You want me to go back and stand in front of the classroom, but this is betterment for you. It means you are going to ensure, if you use the time wisely, that you don't have homework. Because now you're going to have an hour to get your homework done, compared to only having 20 minutes to get it done, and it wasn't enough time for most of you to finish your homework. So it's a good thing for you, I promise. The other aspect to that is, even though you don't like this format, how strong the majority of you have become as math students by watching these videos, to me has blown my mind. I've had the most growth watching you all, and for you being able to answer my questions and remember things than I think I've had ever in teaching 6th grade. And that means this format does work. You are able to focus more when you try, when you put forth the effort, when you truly watch it and pay attention and you're engaged and following along in the book. It's that handful of students that want to watch it and fast forward, or who are working ahead while I'm talking to say, yes, I watched it, that you're not getting the best benefit out of it. You know, I'm not up here on these videos just to rant and rave and to, you know, fill up time and space. You know, I'm not an actor by any means. Okay? So it's for your benefit, and those of you that are, you know, just not wanting to do as I asked, it's only a detriment to you. You'll become a really strong math student if you just follow along and participate and think about what I'm saying and fill out your book. With that being said, we're moving on. So now we're graphing, which is what I said we were going to do in the last video. We're into our graphing now. We're still going to have our data charts. But now we have to take our data charts that we're given with our input and our output, and we're going to make ordered pairs out of them. That has to be my first step. I'm telling you now, if you don't show me your ordered pairs that you get from your chart, you're missing a point, you're redoing your assignment. So please, even though it doesn't say after 1 or 2 of the questions, list your ordered pairs, you're going to do it. Because if not, I'm just going to hand it back to you and tell you it's incomplete and I need you to redo it. So once again, if you're listening, focused, participating, understanding what I'm saying, you'll know that I am requiring you to list your ordered pairs. And once again, everything that I show as I'm working out a problem is what I expect from you to do. It's why I show it, not to skip 14 steps and just come up with an answer. That's not good enough. You have to be able to show me how you've done your work. So the first thing I'm going to do when I'm looking at this is figure out what we're talking about for our scenario. Then I'm going to find my pairings, my ordered pair. A cafeteria has a pancake making machine. The table shows the relationship between the time and hours and the number of pancakes the machine can make. graph the relationship represented by the table. And when it says graph the relationship, we're going to see dots put on a graph in coordinate 1, all positive coordinates. So the first thing I do is I take the information and I make my ordered pairs. Now, if it was horizontal and I had my x's above my y's, my top number would be my first. Because when I do plotting, I always run, which is my x, before I jump, which is my y. So the top line would be listed first in my ordered pair. When I'm doing vertical here, they show me this. It says times and hours, and it doesn't indicate which is my x and y, but I know this is my input and my output, and I've said that's also the same as saying my y. And anytime we set up that rule formula, we always use this as my x. So this is always going to be my first one, and then this is going to be my second one. That will be obvious when we look at the graph and see how the numbers are organized. So my first ordered pair, they start me out as 1 and 200. So I take my x and my y, my input and my output, 1 and 200. 2 and what? 400. So I have to put my ordered pair for my second one, 2 and 400. I go to my third one, 3 and 600. Now, don't start yelling at the computer and saying, you're going too fast. Pause the video. Pause it, write it down, go on. And then I go to my next one. It didn't give me the 4, but I can follow the pattern. I'm good enough at that. Here's a 4, followed by an 800, and then my next one is a 5, followed by 1,000. So once I have my ordered pairs, then I can move on. So with my ordered pairs, now I'm just going to find where they go. Well, first, I have this graph and I've got missing information. Choose an appropriate scale for each axis of the graph. Label the axes and give the graph a title. Alright, so here we go. Well, X is already labeled. Y is already labeled. My scale, I have to show what I'm increasing by. We know that we're going 1, 2. So I fill in my information. 3, 4, 5. Alright. And then I increase by 200s. So 200, 400, 600, 800, 1,000. Now notice that we have a line in between that we're skipping. Well, that's okay, because that just indicates my 100, right? So this would be a 100, and then a 300, and a 500. So I'm good with that. And then I graph a point for each ordered pair. So when I graph, they've already put the first one there for me like they often do. 1 and 200. So once again, I'm running, and then I'm jumping. I'm running to 1 and jumping up to 200. So on my second one, it says 2, 400. So I'm going to run to 2 and jump up to 400. And I'll put a point. I'll run to 3 and jump up to 600 and put a point. So on and so forth as I'm graphing it. So I make sure that I put a point in each of the locations. And I can just make sure it's in the right spot. Let's say I want to make sure I put the 5 one in the right spot. So it said 5 and 1,000. I go to 1,000, go here. I go to 5 and go here. And my fingers do indeed meet at the point. So I know I graphed it correctly. Then what we're seeing is that I have a constant increase. When I talk about that, we'll talk about linear equations coming up in the next video. But it shows what that increase is at each time. Jumping ahead to the next example they give me then, it says bicycle assembly. And it says this is how many hours I'm working, and this is what I had to get done. So basically we have a checklist of what we have to get done at work, and I check it off as the time goes on. And as the time goes on and I work more and more and more hours, my list should get smaller and smaller. The table shows the relationship between the number of bicycles that Y, here, Sean has left to assemble, and the number of hours, X, here, that he has worked. Graph the relationship represented by the table to find the unknown value of Y. So it's not just I can figure out by finding the rule what the X or the Y should be equal to if my X is 2. It's about graphing it first because that's what it says. And in order to graph first, you're going to show me your parents. They give you a spot to do that. So from that information, we look at what we have. I have, starting out at the beginning of my work day, I have 10 bicycles to repair. So then my next ordered pair, I work an hour, and now I'm down to 8 bicycles still to repair. And then I have to skip because I don't know what that one is. I work 3 hours, and by working 3 hours, I have 4 bicycles still to repair. And then I have worked 4 hours, and for 4 hours, I have 2 bicycles to repair. And so when I graph those and I look at how they go, I know that for my first hour, or when I first start, I have 10 bicycles to repair. And then I go to my 1. I run, and then I jump. 1 and 8. I go up to my 8, so I'm going down this time, aren't I? But then I have to skip, because I don't know what the 2 is. But by solving and graphing the rest, it'll help me figure it out. So I'm going to skip to 3. So I have to make sure I go over 3, and then up to what? Well, the pattern tells me on the chart to go up to 4. So when I go up to 4, I've skipped that spot, and then I can go to 4 and graph 2. So by graphing those, I see that big gap. And it says I'm going to follow the same pattern. So if I follow the same pattern, then this is where I start thinking about how I'm going to do it. The points on the graph appear to lie on a line. It says to use a ruler and a dashed line through the points. So if I use a ruler and make a dashed line through the points, I have rulers in the back of my room. They've been there for the past 2 years. You're more than welcome to use them. There are some that are just straight edges. They're not even rulers. You're more than welcome to use them. If you want to just do it without having it perfectly straight, I'm fine with that as long as I don't have squiggles. If you can't possibly make a straight line to save your life, or dashes to make a straight line to save your life, then please get a straight edge. But this is pretty small. You should be able to draw a straight enough line in that little bitty space. Then it says to use the line to find the y value that coordinates to an x value of 2. Start at the origin, here. Move 2 units to the right, here. Move up until you reach the line that you drew. And as I move up, boom, it reaches right there. So what does that say? Then move to the left to find the value of the line. Well, I went up to my line. There's the line I drew, and I came over here. It reaches a 6. So that tells me, that proves to me, because I graphed, that when x has a value of 2, that I have how many left? I have 6 left. I moved 2, and then I went up to where my lines cross, and I see that that line makes a 6. So I know that my missing value, or that my y, is going to be 6. 6 what? 6 bicycles left to assemble on my job. Going on then. Notice I don't have any kind of scenario set up here. All I'm going to do is take the information, I'm going to graph it just exactly, and notice we have here ordered pairs, space, and here space. Guess what you're going to be required to do? So I'm going to go to my first one. This is where we go horizontally. And I said the top one's going to be my x, the bottom one's going to be my y. So I know I'm going to put the first number followed by the second. And they show me 1 and 50. So I would remember which one goes first. And then I have a 2 and a 100. So I write my second pairing, 2 and 100. And then with the 3, I have 150. And then with the 4, I have 200. So then I plot. I go in my ordered pair, run, and then jump. Run 1, go up 50, I put my point. 2, run forward 2, go up 100. 3, run forward 3, jump up 150. 4, run forward 4, go up 200. I plotted it. Now what? That's it. That's all I have to do. All I have to do is plot it and have my ordered pairs. So I'm going to go on. And in my second one, I'm going to write my ordered pairs. You're going to show me this on your paper. And if it's not on your paper for your assignment, I'm just going to hand it back to you with the word incomplete written on it. I'm not even going to try grading it. So just do it right the first time, and then we'll be okay with each other. So I'm going to put my ordered pair. Once again, my top number is my x, so it's my first. And then my bottom number is my y, it's going to be my second. So notice my ordered pair does match. 20 and 100, 40 and 200, 60 and 300, 80 and 400. and then I'm going to run, first column, before I jump, second column, 20, jumping to 100, 40, jumping to 200, 60, jumping to 300, so on and so forth. And I'll see an increase. But notice on this one, I went line by line by line by line, and on this one, I've skipped lines. Is that okay? Absolutely. As long as that's what this graph tells me, or this information tells me to do, then my graph should represent it. This skips by tens, and so should my graph, unless my bottom line was going 20, 40, 60, 80. But since it has my odd ones, my 10, 30, 50, that I do skip them, and I've done what I'm supposed to do. Well, what about these next two? Graph the relationship represented by the table to find the unknown value of y. So those were the last ones that we looked at in the example problems. I'm still going to start the same way. I'm still expecting you to have ordered pairs. My ordered pairs are here. This is where it's not as easy, because this is where they're going to try to trick you. It's no longer going to be a quick multiplication or a quick division. It's going to be weird increments, and I got to figure out what that weird increment is. So I first start by putting my pairings. I have 4 and 9, 5 and 7, 6 and 5, 7 and something, so I leave a blank, and then 8 and 1. I graph it, and I go in the order this says. So I'm going to run to 4 and jump up to a 9. I'm going to run to the 5 and jump up to the 7. I'm going to run to the 6 and jump up to 5. I can't plot 7 yet. So I skip 7 and I do my 8, and I run to 8 and jump up to 1. And when I do that, I'm going to see an empty space there. This is where using a straight edge to line up would help me find, well, if I went to my 7 and went up, it should end up there. When I do that, if I think mathematically how I would do that, then what I should see is that when I go from 9 to 7, because I'm trying to find my y, I get a 7 because I'm subtracting 2. So once again, what I'm saying is going from 9 to 7. From this point down to this point, what did I do? Well, going down, in this case, is subtracting. And what did I subtract? 1, 2. I subtracted 2. So 9 minus 2 is 7, and that was my next y. Well, what's my following y? Well, minus 2, 1, 2. It says that it's 5, and when I take 7 minus 2, I do get 5. And then when I look at the end, I'm subtracting 2 and getting 1. Well, if I continue with my pattern of subtracting 2, then I would just simply take my 5 minus 2, and that should give me 3. And when I go to 7, and I go up, and I look at where that's going to land, it tells me it is indeed 3. And it does check, because 3 minus 2 at the end does give me 1. So once again, explaining what I'm doing here. Looking at my y's. And I look at my y's because it's the y that's missing, not the x that's missing. If the x was missing, I would look at those instead. But look at my pattern. And I have to figure out what my pattern is as I'm going down. And if I look and I think, well, from 9 to 7, I get a minus 2. Decreasing by 2. 9 minus 7, or 9 minus 2, excuse me, is 7? Yes. 7 minus 2 is 5. Yes. Well, if we continue and we guess that 5 minus 2 is 3, then I can check by minusing 2 again. And 3 minus 2 would give me 1, which is what I worked out here. Either way, it does prove that by going over and up, that 3 is my missing point. So I know that my ordered pair has to be 7, 3, and that would lie directly on the line that we created by these ordered pairs. Number 4, same thing. I'm going to start with my ordered pairs. Once again, if I don't see your ordered pairs on your paper, incomplete's written on your paper, you get it back, just do it right the first time, and there aren't any problems. But I do my ordered pairs, starting with 1 and 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 5, 7, wow, they don't like 7s, do they? That was the last one that was missing. But then 9 and 7. Actually, I think I switched those. So those would need to be switched. But if I look at my pattern from 3 to 4, what am I doing? Well, I'm adding 1. And from 4 to 5, I'm adding 1. So down here, I would have to add 1 to get to 7. So when I plot those, I skip the one that I don't have. When I skip the one that I don't have, then I check my adding. If I go from 3 and I add 1, notice it's only one line up, do I get 4? And it says, yes, 3 plus 1 is 4, because that's my next one. That's where I've plotted. And then, am I adding 1 to get my next number of 5? It does say that my next one is 5 and 5. Well, at the end then, there I have it correct, I should be adding the next number plus 1 to get 7. And when I looked at my ordered pair, my point is indeed 7. So then when I add 1 to 5, what do I get? I get a 6. Well, if I go to my 7, and then I follow up with this one, and it's on the line, which would be there, and I go straight across, it tells me that it is indeed 6. So my ordered pair that's missing should be a 6. So when I do these two, notice you don't have any space. So what I've done for you is I've created a worksheet. It's not a worksheet, but it's just a place for you to work. So I've given you graphs. I've given you these charts. And I want you to go over to my desk on the corner and get that extra sheet of paper, come back to where you're working, and fill it out and solve these two answers. Pause the video, do it, and then when you've got them plotted, even if you want to do 7 or 5 and make sure you've done it correctly, and then you can pause it and then do 6 and make sure you've done it correctly, or do both of them and check. We need to have the same answers. So pause the video now and go get your paper, and we'll continue. So hopefully you have your extra sheet of paper and you have both of these worked out. What you should end up with is this on your paper. If you don't have your ordered pairs, you're getting your assignment back. You're going to write them because that's what I've asked. You got to show your work. And your ordered pairs are given here with your X followed by your Y, and you list them. And then you don't have to show this equation. It's my way of showing how I thought through the problem to get to my answer. But when I plot it then, I have my 1 and 7. I have my 3 and 6. I have my 5 and 5. I have colored the wrong one. I have my 7 and 4. And I have my 9 and 3. When I had, it should have been these two and these two that I had put the wrong color. But when I made a straight line, and I looked here, and I went to my 5 and up, that is indeed my 5. So it was a way of proving that your 5 was your missing number. When I looked at what I was doing mathematically, I was just decreasing by 1 each time in my Y column. So I went 7 minus 1 is 6. And 6 minus 1 was my 5. And then I proved it because 5 minus 1 is my 4, and 4 minus 1 is my 3. So then on the last one that you've done, if you haven't done it, pause it and go and do it. And then we move on. So my last one then, I'm increasing again. So it doesn't matter if I'm decreasing, it doesn't matter if I'm increasing, I'm just still doing the same steps. Once again, your ordered pairs have to be listed on your paper. If it's not listed, you get an incomplete written on your paper, you're getting it back, you're redoing it. But once you have your ordered pairs, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 7 and 8, and I plot them, I would see that I'm missing that 7. So I would have plotted my 4 and 5, and then I would have plotted my 7 and 8 and had the space. And when I have a line, if I want to draw a line, you can, you don't have to. But if I go to my 6, and then I follow it up, I would see that I indeed get a 7. So that's all there is to this lesson. The lesson is not designed to be difficult. It should be quick and easy. It's just figuring out what my ordered pairs are. So we list them on our paper. We list them going down. And then we plot them. If it helps you to draw the line on the paper, please draw the line on the paper. I am fine with that. It doesn't say to. But you might have to do that in the near future on one of your assignments. So it's okay. But we understand that this is my input, my output. This is my X. This is my Y. Because we might have to do math problems to figure out what the ordered pairs are here in the upcoming future. So if you've worked through your questions or worked through your workbook and you have questions, then you come and ask.